Deploying configuration profiles is where we get into in my opinion, the most interesting part of mobile device management. Because this is where you're actually configuring a device. You're picking some attributes that you can push down over the air. And when we say over the air, we're talking about a device that's connected to your network through a Wi-Fi or a data plan. And as long as you have communication with this device, you can control configurations. These are items that you could normally configure directly on the device, but instead you can create them once in the console and push them down respectively to thousands of devices. How do we do that? Well, we do that using a smart group. Now, there's two different types of group in AirWatch. There's an assignment group and there's a smart group. Just remember, an assignment group is targeting a device or a organization group, and the smart group is going to be a lot more granular. We can get down to a specific device platform, a user. We can exclude users. We can choose an operating system. We can choose a user group. We can choose all sorts of items here that are very granular in a smart group. That's what makes it smart. Whereas the assignment group is really a one-trick pony here, and it's just really targeting mostly the organization group. But the thing is, the assignment group is easier. It's already created for you. If you have an organization group, it's already been created and you're good to go. Smart groups is when you want that granular access. All right, so when we create profiles, we're going to make sure that we have them inside of a smart group to deploy a configuration to a device. So if you think of it as three containers, you'll realize what a profile is. So a profile consists of three items. It consists of the smart group or assignment group. It consists of a general configuration settings, which is the wrapper. It tells the profile where to go. And then it consists of a payload. And that payload is the actual configuration. And we suggest one payload per profile. So a payload could be email, Wi-Fi, VPN. It could be passcode restrictions. And that wrapper and then the assignment or smart group tells it what to do. Now that payload can have an automatic deployment. It can deploy during enrollment. It could also have an on-demand status as well, meaning you push it down when you see fit. We have areas of deployment, meaning it can be geofenced and deploy only when a user's in a certain area. We also have a time-based deployment as well. Time-based meaning if you only want your workers that are hourly to receive email from 9 to 5, well, we can have a profile deploy only during that time for email. Assignment group, we can have it, of course, pushed down to a specific assignment group or user group. So here's what the profile looks like. This is the general settings. This is that wrapper around the payload. And that wrapper is going to tell the user, or more the device, what configuration should be applied. And we have certain areas, time zones, deployment types, device types. All those items are going to be configured here to tell the payload exactly where to go. On the left-hand side, you can see all of those subjects, such as general, passcode, restrictions, Wi-Fi, VPN, email. Those are all payloads. And if you really find a few payloads that are similar, go ahead and group them. But most of the time, you want to keep major payloads separate, like VPN, email, Wi-Fi. Those should be separate. Because guess what? If you make a modification to a payload and you want to, say, change your Wi-Fi password, but you also have email and VPN bundled in with it, you're going to have to modify the Wi-Fi passcode. It's going to push down a brand new profile, brand new email, brand new VPN, and you might have some interruption in service. And guess what? You're also going to make a push for all three of those profiles to all of your devices. And just to be honest, you want to keep those separate for troubleshooting as well, just in case one of those profiles are not working appropriately. If you have some restrictions, such as disabling the camera and maybe disabling the screen capture that you want to bundle together, feel free to do that. All right, so here's some examples of some key payloads that you might want to push down. We have passcode, restrictions, Wi-Fi, VPN, Exchange ActiveSync. These are items that should be on every administrator's mind. These are things that you want to secure across the board. So 9 times out of 10, you might want to take a look at pushing down these payloads. The passcode payload is a crucial one. You want to have a passcode on the device. If you don't have a passcode, you're just asking for problems if that device is lost or stolen. Now, if you don't have a passcode on the device, you also can't remotely lock it from the console. So make sure your users are forced to have a passcode on the device. And if you need to unlock that device for them if they forget it, you can do so remotely. A restrictions payload is going to be the way that we can remove an asset off their device. Now, removing an asset off the device means that we can remove the camera, we could remove a native application or native functionality, and we can prevent the user from using a specific area of that device. And again, this can be geofenced, it can be time-based, but you can look through these restrictions and see which ones might be able to be applied to your production environment. They are platform specific, so you're going to see some restrictions not available for iOS that are available for Android and vice versa. Same with Windows and any of our other platforms. You'll want to pay special attention to DLP, data loss prevention. These are going to help increase the security of your device. Email deployment will utilize your Exchange Active Sync profile, and this is where you can push down VMware Boxer, or you can use the native email client. You can also push down some native DLP settings, some data loss prevention settings for email. So this email access here you can see is using lookup values. Those are little brackets there that allow you to configure a profile, in this case email access, for all your users and dynamically pull in their user information such as domain or email username to provide access. VPN or Wi-Fi, very self-explanatory, but you will want to look through and see what VPN and Wi-Fi carriers you have access to. We have all the major Wi-Fi and VPN. We have AnyConnect, we have RSA, multiple authentication methods for both of these connectors. And you can use proxy, you could use our own AirWatch Tunnel for the VPN. So go through and look at some of our providers and make sure again that that's going to work for your use case. I'll give you an example really quickly on VPN. If you want to push down VPN access to all your devices and you don't want to have an interruption of service because a password expires, one feature you could do is push down a certificate for authentication. The certificate-based authentication would allow the end user to have uninterrupted Wi-Fi, but you do not have to share out a very complex, say 10 special characters passcode that someone on a mobile device would have trouble inputting with small buttons. So again, we can use certificate-based authentication for Wi-Fi and VPN access. Now, we have some templates in the console to help you get started. So industry templates is going to be for multiple verticals, healthcare, education, government, and we'll give you some kind of starting profiles, applications, so you don't have to create all these items from scratch. And then from there, you can modify or remove or subtract or add your own applications, profiles, policies that will protect your devices in your environment. So don't think you have to start from scratch here. It's a really good place to start off with is to look at the industry templates and see if some of those will work for you. It also gives you some good ideas about what applications should be pushed to your devices. Now you can see here that if we add a new Android profile, there's a little bit different from an iOS profile, from a Windows profile. So make sure you're aware of the key payloads that are available for each platform. That way, when you start talking to your other team members, upper management, about AirWatch capabilities, you know what's available for your platform type. If you're only supporting iOS devices, you should probably concentrate on iOS profiles and the capabilities of what we have in this type of deployment. Remember that there's an area control and a scheduling control. So the areas are going to be called geofencing. And geofencing means that we can locate a device and we can turn on or off a profile based on the device being in that certain area. Now, this is great for, say, if you want the camera disabled when the user is on company property, but when they leave company property, a half mile outside the company, then the camera comes back. Same with time fencing. If you have hourly employees that are, say, contract workers and they cannot work outside of their hours, then you could say, you know what, we're only going to push down this email profile from 9 to 5 when they should have access to their email. Once you create a profile, you can disable a profile. You can copy or deactivate or activate a profile, and you can outright delete it. In your profiles list view, which you'll see in a demonstration at the end of this chapter, you can see all the profiles you created. You can disable them for some users, enable them for others, troubleshoot any issues, pushing them down. You can view a list of users that are associated with that profile. Again, we're going to give you all the tools to manage this profile successfully. And you can even create you can even create your own XML, and you can work with our team here to make some modifications to profiles. Especially if there's a security risk, we can even push down a custom configuration over a custom XML profile. If you want to add a new resource, this is very easy. So in the past, you had to create multiple profiles for each platform. But a resource is a profile that applies to multiple platforms, the other way around. So I can create a resource and check off the operating systems that I would like this resource to be applied to. I can create an email resource that applies to iOS, Android, and maybe Mac OS X devices. Create it once, push it down to all those operating systems. So resources are very valuable. Go ahead and take advantage of those as well. All right, so here you can see that these resources, you can see that we have the details, we have the platform, and then we have the assignment type. And again, it's going to be up to you to determine your platform. But then once you determine all the platforms this profile is going to be applied to, it looks just like creating a basic profile. The only difference is once you select those platforms, you're going to be then selecting attributes for all of those platforms. And it's only going to show you items that are available cross-platform. Now, we talked earlier about smart groups. So we want to make sure that we cover assignment groups in detail. So if you navigate in the console, you can go to Groups and Settings, Groups and Assignment Groups, and you're going to see every organization group that you've created, such as Sales or IT Ops, already created there with an assignment group. It's all ready to go. So it's much easier than creating smart groups, which are more granular. If you just need to assign device or content or I'll say devices or applications to those assignment groups. We're going to talk about content and how we assign those with user groups a little bit later. But let's go over a list of items that can be assigned to an assignment group or a smart group. Profiles, applications, compliance policies. If you want to assign one of those things, those three things, then you're going to use an assignment group or a smart group. And the assignment group will already be made and configured for you. All you have to do is just click on it. Windows 10, we have some specific profiles that you're going to want to be aware of. We have desktop credentials. We have passport for work. We have Windows desktop encryption. We have Windows updates. We have Windows licensing profiles. And we have Windows application control. So if you're a Windows 10 house, absolutely make sure that you go to the profile section and take a look at some of those payloads that you can configure for your Windows 10 devices. All right, so when we navigate to profiles, when we create our profiles, you'll do this in the lab. I'll show you a demo as well. You can use credentials to enhance some of these payloads. Credentials is going to remove the authentication portion for the end user. They're not going to have to sign into these email programs or sign into Wi-Fi or VPN. You can upload a certificate and then encrypt that communication there with a authentication that's already been approved and authenticated. It's great for email access because when their user's email, their Exchange email password changes, we can just update the certificate instead. If we want to configure the Passport for Work profile, we can do that as well. We can push that down to our Windows devices, and we can make sure that we utilize some of the standard configurations here, such as biometric gesture, TPM, minimum pin length, maximum pin length, case, and special characters. all of this again is available in a profile form. Windows Updates payload, we can make sure that we can push down Windows Update to enhance our device's security, and we can do that over the air. Windows Licensing profile, we can select the Windows Licensing payload and we can configure the following settings. The edition, we can configure the license key, and we can push that down to all of our devices. And then, of course, you can have it on Enterprise and push it down to all of your Enterprise devices enrolled. We have a Windows Health area that allows you to check to see if you have Windows devices managed successfully. You can check to see if secure boot is present, the couple of policies are present, the management version, anti-malware, code integrity. This is where you basically configure how a Windows device is going to be enrolled using its security inside of AirWatch. So if you want to modify a security setting, you'll go here as far as Windows 10 is concerned. We can utilize some application control as well. So application control is actually an Android-only profile. And application control allows you to determine what applications go down to an Android device, and it can be single or multi-app. Now, if we want to blacklist, whitelist, or require applications, we can do so with application control. All right, so what are the key payloads that can be configured through a profile in the AirWatch console? We have password or passcode, Wi-Fi, VPN, Exchange ActiveSync, restrictions. All of those items can be configured, and we suggest you configure them before you enroll devices. The IT department would like to configure a profile that would apply restrictions to manage your devices once they enter the work area. Which feature would be used with this goal? So if we're talking about area, we're talking about geofencing. So make sure you have a geofencing profile pushed down to devices where you want to change configurations based on the device's location.